Welcome back, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Sparkles. Today, we're going to explore the top four most valuable Jefferson nickels, the classic 5-cent coins of the United States of America. Some of these nickels, especially those with rare silver wartime issues, mint errors, and unique color shades, have become highly sought-after treasures in the coin collecting and investing world. These coins are more than just everyday change. They are pieces of history, and some are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars today. So, if you're a coin enthusiast or simply someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, this video is made for you. Back-end index pointing right, let's get started with the countdown. Beginning with the first rare Jefferson nickel, Rocket. The Jefferson nickel, one of the most familiar coins in American pockets, hides a treasure within certain years that only the wise collector truly understands. Among the most powerful and fascinating of them is the 1943 S. Jefferson nickel, a coin minted during one of the darkest yet most heroic chapters in American history, World War II. To many, it looks like just another 5-cent piece, but its silver content and its rarity in top condition make it an object of immense value and desire in today's market. The year 1943 was no ordinary year. The United States was fully engaged in the Second World War, and every piece of material, including copper and nickel, was needed for the war effort. Ammunition, tanks, and aircraft demanded metals in staggering quantities, so the mint made a bold move. Jefferson nickels from 1942 to 1945 were struck not with their usual composition, but with a special alloy of 35% silver alongside copper and manganese. The result was the famous war nickels, and among them, the 1943 S stands tall as one of the most coveted. The San Francisco Mint, identified by the proud S mint mark above Monticello on the reverse, produced these coins in large numbers, but their survival in pristine form is far less common. Many of these nickels circulated heavily, their surfaces dulled by decades of commerce, leaving very few in untouched, sparkling condition. Today, collectors are willing to pay fortunes for examples that seem to have escaped the ravages of time, their luster as bright as the day they were struck. The silver content of the 1943 S nickel also gives it a weight far beyond its face value. At the time of its release, silver was not considered precious in small quantities. Yet decades later, the reality of limited supply and growing demand transformed these dimes and nickels into symbols of hidden wealth. To hold a silver war nickel is to hold a piece of America's wartime sacrifice, infused with both patriotism and precious metal. But it isn't just the silver that makes the 1943 S special. It is the mystique of its survival, the rarity of flawless examples, and the occasional presence of minting errors. Some coins display double die features, off-center strikes, or planchet anomalies. These errors, born of haste during a period when the mint was under tremendous pressure, have since become holy grails for collectors. One such coin can transform from mere change into an artifact worth thousands or even tens of thousands. Consider the history these coins have witnessed. A 1943 S nickel may have once passed to the hand of a soldier's family buying war bonds, or a child collecting scrap metal for the war effort. Each coin is not just a piece of metal, but a silent witness to sacrifice, resilience, and the spirit of a nation determined to prevail. To find one today is to touch a fragment of that era, a bridge across time connecting us to the greatest generation. The rarity of these coins only intensifies with the demand of modern collectors. In an age when people scour their pockets and jars for overlooked treasures, the 1943 S. Jefferson nickel often rises to the top of the list. Its silver core and historic value make it a constant target for both seasoned numismatists and newcomers dreaming of a life-changing discovery. Imagine stumbling upon one of these nickels in uncirculated condition, tucked away in an old cigar box or inherited from a relative's forgotten collection. To the untrained eye, it may look like just another old coin, but to the informed, it represents a fortune waiting to be claimed. That sudden realization, the moment when you learn your nickel is worth thousands, is what turns an ordinary life into an extraordinary story. The coin market has seen astounding results when pristine or era 1943 S nickels come to auction. Bidders drive prices higher and higher, each determined to own a piece of numismatic legend. In these moments, a simple coin once worth 5 cents commands sums that can rival the cost of luxury cars or even homes. It is this leap from pocket change to life-changing wealth that give the 1943 S its legendary reputation. Beyond wealth, however, the 1943 S nickel offers something even rarer, meaning. It represents the unity of a nation during a time of struggle, the ingenuity of adapting coinage to the needs of war, and the timeless truth that small things often carry the greatest power. This little coin is not just metal. It is memory, history, and opportunity pressed into one. Every collector dreams of finding the right coin at the right time, and the 1943 S. Jefferson nickel embodies that dream more than most. Its silver heart beats with history. Its surfaces shimmer with potential, and its rarity whispers promises of overnight fortune. The wise know that coins like this should never be discarded or undersold. They hold the power to rewrite destiny. So, the next time you hold a handful of change, look closely. Hidden among the ordinary may lie a 1943 S. Jefferson nickel, waiting to reveal itself. And if you are the lucky one who uncovers it in shining, untarnished perfection, you may find yourself not just holding a piece of silver, but grasping a key to unimaginable fortune, a coin that could alter your future forever. Next up, the Jefferson nickel, introduced in 1938, was intended to honor one of America's most influential presidents, Thomas Jefferson, and his iconic home, Monticello. For decades, it circulated steadily, blending into the flow of American commerce. But in certain years, unusual circumstances and unique production quirks transformed some of these coins from ordinary change into numismatic treasures. One such year is 1967, a time when the mint's decisions, America's coinage policy, and collectors' passions converged to create a piece that still inspires awe today. The year 1967 was part of a turbulent era in U.S. coin history. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the mint had removed silver from dimes and quarters and greatly reduced its use in half dollars. This was due to rising silver prices and the fear that people would hoard coins for their melt value. The Jefferson nickel, however, remained in its traditional copper-nickel composition, but rumors of experimental strikes and special test planchets still linger around coins of this era. That whisper of silver within a nickel, real or rumored, has made collectors hunt 1967 nickels with unmatched intensity. Another critical twist in 1967 was the absence of mint marks. The mint deliberately removed all mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967 as part of a plan to discourage collectors from hoarding newly struck coins during the coin shortage of the 1960s. This means that every Jefferson nickel from 1967 looks the same at first glance, no matter if it came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This uniformity gave rise to mystery and speculation, especially when rare varieties or special strikes were discovered. The special mint sets SMS of 1967 add even more intrigue. Since proof sets were suspended at the time, the mint issued these special sets instead, with coins that had an unusual finish, sharper strikes, mirrored surfaces, and satin-like textures. A 1967 Jefferson nickel, in SMS condition, can shimmer with a beauty unmatched by ordinary circulation coins. When preserved perfectly, these nickels command extraordinary prices, sometimes turning a 5-cent piece into a small fortune. Beyond finish and appearance, collectors obsess over errors and varieties. Some 1967 Jefferson nickels show off-center strikes, die cracks, or double features on the inscriptions. Others may have been struck on planchets intended for other denominations, a mistake that instantly transforms a coin into a one-of-a-kind treasure. Such errors are not only rare but also highly prized, because they tell the story of the mint under pressure, producing billions of coins while occasionally letting perfection slip. The idea of a 1967 nickel with silver content, whether by accident test strike or planchet mix-up, feeds the dream of collectors everywhere. Imagine a Jefferson nickel that appears ordinary but, when tested, reveals silver coursing through its veins. Such a discovery would not just be historic. It would ignite the coin market with frenzy, and its value could skyrocket to unimaginable heights. One coin like this could indeed change someone's fortune overnight. Part of what makes the 1967 Jefferson nickel so compelling is its place in American history. The 1960s were a time of upheaval, innovation, and transformation. This coin stands as a silent witness to those years. Years of civil rights movements, space exploration, and cultural change. To hold one is to hold a relic of that era, a small piece of history that carries stories far larger than its modest size. When collectors and historians look back, they see the 1967 nickel not as just another entry in the long series of Jefferson nickels, but as a symbol of transition. It bridges the old era of silver coinage with the modern era of clad coins. It embodies immense struggle to balance practicality, demand, and artistry during a time of national and economic change. At auctions, pristine 1967 Jefferson nickels, especially those from special mint sets with cameo or deep cameo contrast, have shocked the market with their prices. Bidders recognize their rarity and leap at the chance to own them. What was once worth a nickel has been elevated into the realm of hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on condition and uniqueness. That transformation itself is proof of the coin's incredible power. The thrill of discovery is what drives many to search jars of change, family collections, or old estate boxes for forgotten treasures. To the untrained eye, a 1967 nickel may seem like nothing more than pocket change, but to the trained eye, it might reveal a subtle error, a flawless surface, or even the dream of silver content. That moment of recognition, the realization that wealth hides in plain sight, is what makes coin collecting magical. The 1967 Jefferson nickel is a reminder that fortune often comes in the smallest forms. A 5-cent coin, overlooked by millions, can hold secrets capable of rewriting a collector's destiny. Its combination of history, mystery, and possibility is what makes it one of the most fascinating coins of its era. So if you happen to find a 1967 Jefferson nickel, don't dismiss it. Hold it up to the light. Study it closely and imagine the hands it has passed through. For within that small circle of metal may lie not just a connection to America's past, but also the key to your future prosperity. Like a hidden treasure waiting patiently, it has the power to transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary story. Next up, 1964 Jefferson nickel. One must look at the turbulent coin shortage of the early 1960s. Americans were hoarding coins in unprecedented numbers, especially those containing silver. The government responded by drastically increasing mintage numbers in 1964, creating billions of nickels to keep commerce flowing. Yet despite such mass production, certain varieties, minting quirks, and experimental pieces made this year's nickel one of the most hunted treasures in the coin market. Unlike the famous war nickels of 1942 to 1945, which carried silver in their alloy, the 1964 Jefferson nickel was officially struck in the standard copper-nickel composition. But rumors have persisted for decades that experimental silver planchets may have been tested at the mint, possibly leaving behind a handful of nickels with unusual metallic content. If a 1964 nickel struck in silver were ever confirmed, it would instantly become one of the most valuable coins in U.S. history, shattering records at auction and turning its finder into a millionaire overnight. Part of the intrigue with the 1964 issue lies in the suspension of mint marks between 1965 and 1967. Because of this decision, coins from those years carry no indication of where they were struck. But in 1964, the Philadelphia Mint already produced nickels without a mint mark, blending them into circulation alongside their Denver counterparts. This has created a mysterious overlap, with collectors carefully examining the subtle details of each coin, hunting for rare die varieties or unusual strikes that could elevate their value to legendary heights. One of the most prized varieties of the 1964 nickel is the SMS, or Special Mint Set Strike. While official SMS sets were not supposed to exist for 1964, numismatists believe a small number of trial strikes were produced at the mint, showcasing sharper details, satin-like finishes, and exceptional quality. These coins are extraordinarily rare, with only a handful ever surfacing, and their value is measured not in cents, but in thousands of dollars. The very existence of these nickels blurs the line between myth and reality, adding to their allure. Collectors are also drawn to error coins from this year. The immense pressure to produce billions of nickels quickly led to mistakes. Double dies, off-center strikes, and coins struck on the wrong planchets. Each of these errors tells the story of a mint stretched to its limits, working feverishly to meet demand while inadvertently creating treasures that future generations would cherish. An error coin from 1964 can command breathtaking prices at auction, depending on its uniqueness and condition. The sheer scale of production in 1964 has made the search for valuable nickels both thrilling and daunting. Billions were struck, meaning the rare pieces are needles in a haystack. Yet that is what excites collectors, the chance that in an old jar of coins, a forgotten drawer, or even pocket change, a fortune could be hiding in plain sight. The 1964 nickel embodies the dream of discovery, where an everyday object transforms into a priceless artifact. From a historical standpoint, the coin also reflects America at crossroads. 1964 was the last year before silver was officially removed from circulating dimes and quarters, marking the end of an era. The Jefferson nickel, though not made of silver itself, stood as a companion to this monumental change. Its role in the coinage of that time makes it symbolic of America's economic adaptation, where practicality replaced tradition, but not without leaving behind whispers of what once was. The design itself, featuring Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse, seemed to gain renewed significance in 1964. At a time when the nation was looking for stability amidst social upheaval, the enduring image of Jefferson reminded Americans of resilience, leadership, and continuity. For collectors today, the 1964 nickel is more than metal. It is memory cast in alloy, a small monument to a pivotal moment in U.S. history. When preserved in pristine condition, especially in high mint state grades, 1964 Jefferson nickels fetch impressive sums. Coins with brilliant luster, sharp detail, and minimal marks become treasures in the eyes of auction houses and private collectors. What was once worth 5 cents has, in the right form, become worth hundreds, thousands, or even more if it carries the whispers of rarity. The 1964 nickel teaches us that value is not always about material, but about story. It shows how history, mystery, and human imagination can elevate a humble coin into a symbol of opportunity. Collectors know this well. Every coin has a tale to tell, and sometimes those tales lead to unimaginable fortune. So if you come across a 1964 Jefferson nickel, do not dismiss it as pocket change. Study it carefully, look for signs of rarity, and imagine the journey it has taken across decades of American life. That small disc of metal could be more than a coin. It could be the key to wealth, a bridge to history, and a reminder that fortune often hides in the most unassuming places, waiting for someone bold enough to recognize it. Next up, the Jefferson nickel of 1963 holds a unique place in the long history of American coinage. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 5-cent piece struck in the same copper-nickel alloy as millions of its kind. Yet the closer you step into its story, the more extraordinary it becomes. The 1963 issue was minted at a time when the United States stood on the brink of major changes in its coinage system. And because of this, it has attracted collectors and historians alike who see in it the closing of one chapter and the subtle beginning of another. In 1963, America was a nation in transition. The Cold War was at its height. The economy was booming, and the mint was working tirelessly to keep coins flowing into circulation to meet demand. Jefferson nickels had been struck since 1938, honoring the third president, his home, Monticello, and by the early 1960s, the design was already a familiar part of everyday life. But behind the scenes, discussions were underway about the coming shortage of silver and the eventual need to change America's coinage metals. The 1963 nickel itself contained no silver. It was struck in a mixture of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Yet rumors and whispers among collectors have long suggested that a handful of test strikes in silver may have been produced as experiments. If such a piece were ever discovered, its value would defy belief. A Jefferson nickel struck in silver during 1963, a year before the Great Transition, would not just be a coin but a historical accident of monumental proportions, one capable of elevating an ordinary find into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. Even without silver, the 1963 nickel carries immense historical weight. It was the last full year before America entered the coinage crisis of 1964 to 1965, when the Treasury was forced to remove silver from dimes and quarters and suspend mint marks to deter hoarding. Thus, The 1963 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark from Philadelphia stands as a kind of final calm before the storm. It reflects the last echoes of a stable system that would soon be upended, making the coin far more significant than its face value suggests. Collectors prize the 1963 issue in high-grade condition. The Philadelphia mint struck massive quantities, but most went straight into circulation, where they were quickly worn down by daily use. Finding a brilliant, untouched specimen with sharp details of Jefferson's hair and Monticello's columns is far from easy. These pristine examples have become treasures of numismatics, commanding premium prices in auctions and private sales. Adding to the fascination are the many dye varieties and minting quirks that appeared in 1963. With the mint operating at high speed to meet demand, mistakes were inevitable. Double dyes, repunch dates, and misaligned strikes from this year have since become highly desirable among collectors. Each flaw tells a story of human error and industrial strain, transforming a simple coin into a unique artifact with the power to capture both imagination and wealth. The importance of the Jefferson nickel itself cannot be overlooked. Introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel, it was designed by Felix Schlag, whose vision of Jefferson's profile and Monticello's neoclassical lines made it one of the most elegant coins of the 20th century. By 1963, this design had already weathered the Great Depression, World War II, and the Korean War, and it carried with it a sense of continuity and stability that was comforting to Americans in uncertain times. It is also worth noting that the Jefferson nickel was the coin most Americans carried in their pockets during one of the most dramatic years in U.S. history. 1963 was the year President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, an event that shook the nation to its core. In some ways, the 1963 Jefferson nickel stands as a quiet companion to this national tragedy, a small metallic witness to the shock, mourning, and eventual resolve of a country entering a new era. For modern collectors, the 1963 nickel is not just a 5-cent piece, but a window into this pivotal moment in time. It speaks of economic abundance and looming scarcity, of political transition and cultural endurance. To hold one is to hold a piece of American history, struck just before the great shifts in coinage and society that would define the mid-1960s. In today's coin market, the 1963 nickel without a mint mark, especially in gem condition, can bring far more than its face value. While not every piece is worth a fortune, those with exceptional preservation, rare varieties, or the whispered possibility of an experimental strike stand as potential life changers. The dream of stumbling upon one such treasure is what fuels the passion of collectors worldwide. The power of the 1963 Jefferson nickel lies in its dual nature. It is both ordinary and extraordinary, common in appearance yet rich in hidden potential. It is a reminder that history often hides in plain sight, and that the smallest objects, those passed from hand to hand in everyday life, can carry within them stories of immense significance and unimaginable value. So, the next time you see a 1963 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, look at it closely. Do not spend it thoughtlessly, for it may hold far more than 5 cents. It may hold the last quiet breath before America's coinage revolution, a piece of silver-tinted mystery, and the possibility, no matter how small, of turning an ordinary day into one of fortune, discovery, and history reborn.